Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Genesis 3, verse 8. And they heard the voice of YHVH Elohim walking in the garden in the spirit of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of YHVH Elohim among the trees of the garden. This verse is one of the most hauntingly mystical moments in Genesis. According to the Zohar, it is not merely a narrative transition, it is the first encounter between fallen humanity and the divine presence in exile. The verse captures the cosmic tension between divine immanence and human shame and reveals the true depth of separation caused by the sin. The first phrase we have, they heard the voice of YHVH Elohim, the echo of the supernal word. The Zohar emphasizes that they do not see God, they hear His voice. This is the descent of the divine logos, the creative voice, into the lower realm of sound, which reaches even those in exile. The voice descended through the worlds, seeking the vessels that were now broken. This voice is the Shekinah, the indwelling feminine aspect of God, who searches for the lost souls in the garden. The Zohar sees this as Rakamim, in English, compassion, God calling, not punishing. From the verse we have the phrase, walking in the garden, the movement of the Shekinah. The Hebrew word mithalech, which means walking, is in the reflexive form, implying inner motion, a divine presence that is searching inwardly. The Zohar explains that Shekinah is walking between the Sephirot, descending from Tiferet, which is divine beauty, into Malkuth, manifestation, seeking to realign the lower world after the rupture. The king's daughter walks among the shattered trees, calling for the lost ones. Thus, the voice is not external thunder, but divine compassion veiled in the world itself, moving gently through the garden, not yet judging, only calling. We have the phrase, in the spirit of the day, Ruach Hayom, the breath of judgment and mercy. This phrase, in the spirit or wind of the day, is mysterious. The Zohar teaches two main layers. Ruach, which is spirit or can be interpreted as wind, refers to the flow of divine energy, the movement of the emotional worlds. And the word Yom, which means day, corresponds to Hesed, loving kindness. But in this context, it also carries justice, because it is the time when truth is revealed. Therefore, the spirit of the day is the unveiling moment when illusion collapses and man becomes aware of his separation. The wind carried both warmth and trembling, for where divine light grows near, all masks fall. Next we have the phrase, and the man and his wife hid themselves, the inversion of presence. Before the sin, Adam and Eve were always in divine presence. transparent, aligned, unafraid. But now they hide. This is the first act of spiritual concealment, where the soul turns away from God instead of toward Him. In Kabbalah, the act of hiding is the essence of din, judgment, not because God judges harshly, but because the soul hides from the light and feels unworthy. It is not the king who hides from man, it is man who cannot bear the gaze of the king. The Zohar teaches that hiding from divine presence is the birth of spiritual exile, a psychological and metaphysical state where humanity no longer feels at home in the sacred. Next we have the phrase, among the trees of the garden. Fragmentation into externalities. The trees of the garden once symbolized the Sephirotic structure of Eden, living divine attributes, radiant pathways of God's light. But now, Adam and Eve use the very divine vessels as hiding places, covering their shame with spiritual structures they no longer understand. This illustrates a deep mystical tragedy. The sacred system is still there, but humanity now uses it as a mask, not a bridge. They took the branches of the tree of life and made of them walls. Mystical reversal from communion to distance. In this verse, all movement reverses. God descends into the garden to reconnect. Man retreats into concealment out of shame and fear. The Zohar mourns this reversal, for it represents the first time the Shekinah is rejected. The soul turns inward, not for reflection, but for avoidance. This moment marks the beginning of a new condition, the world where God must call out and man must choose to answer. The Zohar teaches this verse is the model for all spiritual exile. God calls, the soul hides. Yet even in exile, the voice of YHVH walks, still searching, still loving, still inviting us to emerge from behind the trees and walk again, face to face with the divine. That's it for today. Thank you very much for your donation. Be blessed, everyone, and I will see you on the next episode.